Hi everyone, today I'm speaking to Emily Poole, who's in the Hub Directory, and Emily's a financial planner, so we're talking to her about some various topics to do with divorce, bereavement, and really how to look after your finances. I think one of the things, Emily, for me, when I was growing up, and I went to school in the 70s and 80s, I think we were sort of told, girls, that we weren't very good at maths, but actually, we were. And perhaps we were told that we weren't going to be able to look after the finances of the household, or it was just a funny time. And even with science as well, I think it's only been in the sort of more recent years that girls are warming to the fact that they can do science and maths and all those kind of things. I think when people getting divorced or they're going through bereavement or life-changing situation, when it comes to the word even the word finance, they get a bit scared. Do you find that with what you do?
Absolutely. Obviously, you do get a small minority of women who have made finance their careers, but I'll come back to them in a second. But for those women who don't have anything to do with financial matters in their jobs, or felt that they weren't particularly strong at that when they were children, they will shy away from it because they don't believe that's their specialist area. They'll feel that they're just not qualified to make important decisions about their life. And obviously, when it comes to divorce, bereavement, this is a time when you can't not make those decisions, that they're vital to the kind of lifestyle that you're going to have in the future. So yeah, the women who don't have anything to do with finances are going to be quite scared and very daunted by it, not really have the confidence to deal with it. And worse than that, when they do see a professional, they don't even have enough knowledge to know what the right questions are to ask. So that's why finding the right financial advisor when you're going through that process is really difficult. But just coming back to the women who do work in finance, can I just say that I have advised so many women who are accountants, corporate finance people. There's a lot of people working in finance who still won't know the ins and outs of a pension and won't know what that pot there can do for them in retirement. So they are still coming for advice. So don't ever feel, if you're, especially when you're needing that advice, don't ever feel that, that you're going to be embarrassed to go and ask questions.
I think it's the same for the sort of the whole legal side as well. It's like, I remember when I was getting divorced, going to see the solicitor for the first time, it was like having to learn a new language. I mean, at first you didn't even know what is the respondent, who is the respondent, what is that? You almost need a dictionary to work your way through it. So it's definitely the same with finances. So what do you do when someone comes to you and they are looking quite worried and maybe quite scared to speak about it or about a pension? How do you sort of break down those barriers?
Well, obviously, at the beginning, it's all about making them feel at ease, and not necessarily bombarding them with questions straight away, because especially depending on what stage they are in their divorce or their particular situation that they're going through, they may just not have the headspace and the energy and the desire to sit down and talk in detail about the finances or the legal process. But sometimes it's just about giving the client space, giving them a cup of coffee or a tea, and just letting them talk. And that's important just to establish the relationship with the client straight off. You just don't want to go straight in there with all the questions. Obviously, then becomes a time where you do need to know a bit more about where they are in the process and what their thoughts are along certain matters. But one of the first things I always say to my clients is that, I'm not doing my job if you don't understand. So I'm sorry if I use the odd word that you don't understand. And if I do that, stop me and ask me a question, because there is no such thing as a stupid question. As a financial planner, I believe very passionately that my job is to educate my clients as well as just deal with their finances and give them a secure future. I need them to be engaged in the process, and they're not going to be engaged if they don't understand. So yeah, it's making them feel that they can just ask anything they want, and it's my job to make sure that I put it in the language that they understand.
So one of the questions I do get asked quite a lot is, what is the difference between a financial advisor and a financial planner?
Do you know, this is a question I get asked a lot as well. And when I first started, I just automatically took on the title of independent financial advisor. And when I learned a little bit more about what independent financial planning was, I felt absolutely that is what I do and not the advice side. I do the advice, but I do it in a planning context. So just to explain, so advisor is a little bit of an outdated term, I feel, and it is subjective. Other people have different views, but an advisor would be somebody, you know, more akin to having a transactional relationship with somebody. Somebody would go to an advisor if they wanted a new pension, or they needed an insurance product, or and it was very sort of product driven. You kind of knew what you wanted, but you needed the advisor to help you choose which one. A planner, you could see a planner without actually having a product, although often products are involved to facilitate obviously the planning. But a planner would look at your holistic situation, really get to know you and understand your objectives, and make sure that they weren't just picking a particular product because that's the product you would always use, but pick that product or that path to that objective that is really going to suit you. And the value is in the financial plan, because that is where a lot of the work is involved for the planner in doing a lot of the analysis and laying down, for example, how much you should be putting into your pension at what point and how you should be investing it. And the product is secondary.
That will clear that up. Brilliant, thank you. So going back to women, the big question really is, how do we get women to engage with their finances and help them become more financially savvy?
And this is a tough one, and I think there is no one answer, because women are different. I mean, how do I engage Mrs. Smith over there, who might be interested in XYZ, versus Mrs. Jones over there, who's interested in lots of different things? And I think the engagement comes through the relationship that you have with your financial planner. You have to click. It's a bit like having a therapist or a coach or an understanding bank manager. If you're a business person, you've got to have somebody who's on your wavelength and is able to speak to you in a way that you understand and who engages you. So that's the first thing. Choose the right people to speak to. The second thing is, if you are a bit daunted to do that, there's obviously a little bit of work you can do yourself. We've got this amazing thing called Google. Can't knock it, can we? It has all of the answers. And you can Google the questions that you have just to get yourself a little bit of information so that you might know which questions to ask when you do go and see your planner. There are other things that I would recommend. There are some really, really good podcasts out there. And I'm happy to give you some perhaps for the show notes, or put into the chat underneath the video. But yeah, there's some really great podcasts that are very accessible to people just starting out. And I really recommend them. If you're going on a dog walk or a run, listen to that, and gradually over time you can become really quite proficient in a lot of the terminology and the concepts of investing and financial matters. Another one of my passions, as well as educating women about financial matters, is helping people align their pensions and investments with their values. And I think that's important for women. And that is something that I'm really passionate about, because there are a lot of investment possibilities now. So you do have a choice when it comes to your pensions. You can decide, to invest in the normal run-of-the-mill stuff, which might include things like tobacco and arms and industries that are doing harmful things to the planet. And then there's a whole portfolio of other investments that might be doing something with more of a positive impact. And I think that women especially would be more engaged in their financial futures if they were thinking more along the lines of doing the right thing by the planet and investing within the remit of their own values. So that's an area that I'm really excited about niching into, is ethical and sustainable investing.
Yeah, and definitely educating yourself in things is that empowerment, isn't it? Which is really what the group hug is all about. It's about trying to break down those barriers and you know, through the blogs and all the rest of it, all the other advice and tips that people give about various matters, huge amounts of content on the site. And yeah, definitely pop over some of those podcasts, Emily, so that people can have a listen, because I think you do some podcasts as well, don't you?
I'm actually been part of a group on Clubhouse called Women and Money Cafe, with 5 fellow financial planners and coaches. And that's been fantastic. We've got a great following, and that's doing exactly what I said just then, you know, really bringing what is a complex area to the masses in a way that they understand and can connect. But we are very excitingly moving that into a podcast, and that's going to be launching in the next couple of months. So I'm really excited about that. So 6 financial experts, bringing it down to the level where ordinary women will understand, and that's going to be fantastic. I'm also doing another podcast with a friend of mine who is a success and style coach.
Oh.
Because I thought long and hard about this. How do we reach women who don't want to be reached on the financial level? Where do these women hang out? And I have to say that I do think there's a small part of the gender wealth gap that is a little bit blamed upon the need for women to some women feel that they need to look good all the time. And I do know a lot of women, some friends included, who will spend a lot of time and money on their appearance and clothes and style, but have nothing in their pension. And the idea was that if I teamed up with my style coach friend, we would reach those women, but we would be able to explain to them how to do the style in a way that is not going to break the bank, and then infiltrate that sort of style chat with a little bit of financial information, a little bit more about thinking long term and about planning for your future and your retirement and that kind of thing. So just to make it a bit more accessible. So that podcast is also going to be launching very soon, and that's called Invest in Yourself.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, that sounds really fun, Emily. What a great idea. It's definitely amazing to be able to think about where else women are hanging out. And you're right, there's a lot of women who are spending a lot of money on style, and then I suppose when it comes to retirement, they're going to be saying, oh my goodness, what am I going to do now?
Exactly. And very much the message of the podcast is not neglect your appearance and shove it all in your pension, but it's more about being intentional and mindful about how you spend your money on your appearance and style and your image, which is important, but do it in a way that is more aligned with your values, that is a little bit more intentional, and hopefully leaves a little bit left to put into your pension and invest for the future.
That sounds great. Thanks very much, Emily. Well, thanks for speaking to us today, and obviously we'll put all of Emily's details on the notes below, and obviously the details about your podcast as well, because that's definitely going to be something that people can listen to and educate themselves to all the terminology and everything. So thanks very much, Emily.